Britain has become a very horrible place to live. That's the word on the streets. I mean, a lot of people are online talking. If you open up the dailies, you get in stories. If you go on X, go on Instagram, Facebook, it cuts across every communities and ethnicity. Everyone is saying Britain has become so horrible place to live in, and people are saying on the daily that, oh, thank goodness, my last day in the UK is the 31st. I'm done with the horrible taxes.
Wow.
Well, welcome to Common Sense, where we present everyday topic and apply common sense to it. What's your take on that? Has Britain become a horrible place to live, or has Britain always been a horrible place to live?
That's such an interesting and full and straightforward question. Has it always been? I think it's been a creeper. I think also I must say that I can complain with different elements of cost of living and so on and the rise in crime. Is it really rising, or as you said, or is it propaganda? On the flip side, when I travel to different countries, vastly different countries, I still come back feeling quite grateful.
To the UK.
I absolutely do. I think I complain more when I'm not traveling. And then when I travel to different parts of the world, I do come back with a sense of gratitude, even if it is without the sun.
Okay,
You
that's
know?
interesting. You said that. So, if I would just push you on that before we go into details, what do you mind to share these countries you travel to? Are they countries that are part of the so-called third world, global south? So Britain was already better than them anyway. These countries you
Well,
travel to.
yeah, I think in many, because obviously we UK, Londoners, whichever you want to say, we do rightfully, in some cases, complain a lot. Usually the weather, apparently the people being unfriendly, it being expensive, paying, things like TV license. And in many countries, they may not have that, and so on. But then I say to myself, wow, there's got to be a logic why so many people in different countries are unfortunately even in harm's way trying to sneak to get over to the UK.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
not saying we don't have our issues. I'm not even trying to defend, Britain as such. But what I'm saying is there is a barrage, the word I love to use, yeah, amount of people that left their country alive and arrived here not, based on how they chose to maybe get here, the desperation of trying to get here. And we see some of them now, we'd have ended up homeless under a tent, places like Paris. There's not all of them made it to say they came over, got
So you
housed
bring
and
in the
so on.
immigration twist to it. So, and some of
If
the
I
people
may.
would say that's part of the reasons why UK has become a horrible place because they've let in so many people, so many foreigners in.
Oh.
So for me, I'm always going to be grateful to Great Britain. I've always said it in my own ranting online because my first degree, my first university was here. Second degree was here. So I believe the formation of my life, the better part of my life, was formed in
here.
England. So credit to them. What I have become up till now is credit to Great Britain.
My mother says the same.
Yeah, so
So
I'll always be grateful. But that notwithstanding, I think I still have the privilege to be able to criticize and say when things are going wrong.
Yes.
That's where people get it wrong. They say, you don't have a right, go back to your country. I'm like, look, hang on. My taxes, I'm on the top level bracket of taxes. So I have a stake here to say what is not going right or what's going wrong. We're always going to be grateful when we compare.
yeah, of course.
So when you do relative comparison, so if I was comparing Britain to Nigeria, there are areas and aspects I will be grateful for. Thank God I'm living in the UK.
Yeah.
There are other aspects I would say, I wish I was in Nigeria for this.
Give me some examples. That'd be
It would be
interesting.
the space. So you own a big home. You're not encumbered with all of this road tax, business tax, council tax, this,
Bills.
all of that, bills just
bills.
piling up on you. You buy your home, it's your home.
Yeah.
There's no mortgage. That sort of stuff. The friendship you get, that free-spirited things. If it's the low-hanging fruits, the mangoes and the fruits that you can easily access, you can never compare that with the UK. So there are so many differences. So you probably will not be able to compare any nation together because no two nations are the same. But if you look at industrialized nations and you put Britain on par with them, then you start saying, oh, hang on, maybe Britain is not all that. We're looking at transportation, we're the most expensive in the world, and our transportation is not the best.
Yeah.
And they're still increasing it. It seems like they're not listening to us. While Luxembourg
What is it about the transportation? Would you say that you're not fond of?
the increase in the prices again. So we're the most expensive in the world, in the industrialized world.
Wow.
So in Europe, it's very cheap. You can travel length and breadth of Germany, the four corners of Germany, a whole day for 10 euros. Meanwhile, you couldn't do that. I'm talking if you set out from Germany to go to another state, but you couldn't travel from here to Kent and not be out of your pocket for like 29 quid. So I think most people would say people are hardworking in this country, but the
Absolutely.
burden on them is the taxes, the things that they have to pay for, the ULEZ, the tonnage charges that are coming, the silver tonnage charges that are coming.
You're
It's like the
working just to
politicians.
pay bills.
Yeah, it's like the politicians are not concerned about you having a life of your own.
Absolutely not.
This can be too much and it can be so painful. And people will say, go back to your country, though. But there are a lot of indigenous, if I want to use that word, English people who are fleeing.
Have you heard people say that?
Fleeing the country.
In terms of go back to country based
a lot. They've told us.
Based on complaining about the
Yes. They've done it online, not face to face. Face to face used to just be the pure racist one.
Yeah.
But online, when I talk about what is happening in the country, how society is breaking down services wise and all, when I talk about homelessness, I talk about the burden on our housing. They do come and say, if it's not good for you, go back to your country. I'm like, I got nowhere to go because I got a stake here. I pay taxes here.
Do you think they have a right? Do you think that they have a right to
say go
that?
back to their to my country?
I mean, let's look at that. Let's look at that outside of feelings, because obviously feelings have us.
No, of course.
Take away the feelings and the logic.
Yeah.
These people are from here. The ones that was going to say that, right?
Yeah.
They have nowhere to go back to, right?
Yeah. So they absolutely have nowhere to go.
Right?
I know that's why they're pissed.
So do you feel like they have any?
No, they don't have the right, but they have
the
not right per se, because I don't have the right to say any nonsense to anybody, but I can say what I want to say. So they're free. That's what I want to say. They are free to say whatever they want to say. And they could be termed right to do what they did or say what they have said. But it's not a right as per se, the inherent right to just say, go back to your country. You see what I mean? The inherent right to say, my inherent right will be respect my human right. Not that right, but your right to say whatever you want to say is your business.
What made me say that is because I know I've heard a couple of people say it's like when they visited South Africa. I have no knowledge of that, so I can't dispute. And how they felt, like go back where? Like they said a lot of people there are not of a brown tone in terms of, So hearing them say things, black people's been like, no, how did you get here in Africa? And they'd be telling them to go back where you came from.
So it is.
So how do we juggle that?
Again, I wasn't born here. My parents weren't born here, so it's easy for you to identify and say you came from Nigeria just a couple of years ago. You go back.
Yeah,
that's fine. It depends on why I came here in the first place. Did I come here for school? At the end of the day, most of the people who come here for work come here for school, and they end up staying and having family, and they become British through the legal process. And like I said, you can say whatever you want to say. You got the freedom to say go back to your country. If the government came up with a program one day and said all of you move, I ain't gonna fight it.
But don't they have wasn't there some kind of program going on where they were sending people back against their will? Remember, not so long ago.
Oh, so that would be the Rwanda policy where conservative were saying.
I think there was a couple
so
of.
So that would have been if you sought asylum here, they will remove you to Rwanda and judge your case from there. If you got the asylum, you might be brought back into the country. Australia do that sort of thing. I think
misbehaving criminals who would get sent back to a country.
Yeah, so if you weren't born here and you acquired British citizenship through naturalization or registration as a British citizen, and you committed a grave offense or grave crime, you will be arrested, locked up, and then deported upon release.
Someone was saying for those who were born here too, and I'm like, it can't be. And they were saying,
no, you can't do that for those who were born here. You can't strip them up. But the first test of that case is Shemama Begum, that lady that young girl who went to Yemen or Syria during the war there and has been unable to come back into the country because they stripped her of her British citizenship. That's the first test. But for foreigners who were not born here, who've acquired citizenship, and you commit rape, criminal offense, and kill, I support that. You should be deported. Or I would have said death for death anyway, eye for an eye, but we don't have death sentences, so great. But what we're talking about is has Britain become a horrible place? So if you listen to the white people who own the country, the English people, it's the same thing they say, and the same thing the black faces will say. It's become horrible because there's too much people. There's no development outside of London. Everything is focused on London. London is not all that great. transport is crap. We wait hours for our transport. Nobody respects us. You increase the transport. You increase council tax. Water is filled up with sewage. The government or the regulator has fined them. They've now put that burden on the people by increasing water rate by about 500 quid. Energy bills just keeps going up. We're the only country who blamed. We're part of the countries who blamed Russia and Ukraine war for energy bills going up. But after everything is gone down for the remaining countries, Britain just kept skyrocketing. So all of these grievances just points to very, very dishonest politicians who are the helm of affairs. So it is okay for people to say the horrible things that they feel about UK. If we look at GP surgeries, a couple of years ago, it wasn't like that. GP surgeries are being piled up. If you call your GP, there's a chance you get an appointment 2 years from now.
Yeah, they'll say call back next week at
If
8:30 or go to hospital.
If you dare hold your head on your hand and go to the A&E, you won't be seen for another 12 hours.
Yeah.
In short, somebody comes out and announces to you that, hang on, the average waiting time is 9 hours. So you're telling you with your head on your hand like that, you're going to wait for another 9 hours.
Only in this country.
And there are reasons for this. There are reasons for this.
Yeah.
So if you're not addressing the underlying factors, the underlying things that leads to this, we ain't going nowhere. That's where the politicians are being dishonest and managers are being dishonest. For example, Abbey Wood is a small community, for example. Just say, call it a small community of 20,000 people.
Yeah.
Yeah? And they have 4 surgeries, 4 GP surgeries. And a hospital not too far from there that serves Abbey Wood, Woolwich, Plumstead, and Bexley, for example. There's never been pressure on the services. They have about 4 primary schools and 2 secondary schools. Now, they've decided to sell some of the green land and build 25,000 homes. But they have not built a new surgery, no new primary school, no additional secondary school. What do you think the pressure will be? There will be pressure on the services.
Yeah.
Then those people who are there, seeing a new influx of people who don't look like them, would then turn and blame immigrants for their problem.
Absolutely.
Meanwhile, immigrants are not your problem. Their homes were built, immigrants came and bought properties. Your government can also say, we're built in conjunction with the private developers, you're building these properties, but it will be 2-3 years moratorium on foreigners being able to buy them. You must have lived in the country 3 years, established a link to the society, to the community, before you're able to get on the property ladder. That will bring the prices of homes down and also allow the people who live around the community own a piece of those properties. But UK is not like that. The UK, if you have hush money coming from nowhere, you can buy a property. The most expensive property in the UK is owned by a Nigerian woman.
Oh, wow.
We have people from Hong Kong buying up all the properties in Abbey Wood. Why is that allowed? We have people from Russia, from Nigeria buying up all the properties. Why is that allowed? So the immigrant is not the problem. It's only the poor, wretched-looking immigrant that becomes a problem for the people, because they don't talk about the rich immigrant from Hong Kong who's buying up all the flats. But all of these becomes what we call population bust. And that then had pressure that's why when you go in A&E, you ain't being seen for the next 9 hours. But unfortunately, because you have so many people, Asian looking or blacks in the A&E, the white person walks in and say, you are the problem. It's all black people everywhere, all Asian people everywhere.
Wow.
They are not your problem. The problem is the system. The system was set up that way.
100%. When I went to, I think it was Ghana and India within the last year, and I ended up having to go to hospital in both countries.
I like that laugh.
Yeah.
Sinister.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. Both countries, swelling, feet, travel, all this kind of stuff, you know. I was seen in both countries within about 5 minutes. And I was out.
In where?
Gambia as well as India.
And Ghana and India.
Yeah, I went to what they call the top doctor in India in the particular region.
Yeah.
When they gave me my bill, I was like, how much? I think I paid a tenner to see him. I'm like, what?
Thank you.
The medicine, all different things I bought, I think all of it came up to about £7 up, is in British pounds if I looked at it like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I waited about 10 minutes max. But I'm looking at different places I've seen this in, and as you compare it to
it's the same in France,
UK.
because I know people, British people, rich British people, English people, who went to buy property in France just before COVID. My friends, I'm talking whites, and they told me why they did it.
Have they moved there now?
They don't move. They ain't moving nowhere, just so they could get access to the residency permit.
Oh, brilliant!
And so they can access healthcare.
Brilliant.
I know a lady and her husband. They drive into France weekend to see the equivalent of the GP. I'm like, ain't that too much? Then no, we prefer the road trip than to be waiting hours for this doctor and we'll never see
At
them.
the same time, though, we must know people, because I know that I know people, or family, friends, for example, where they've all moved back home.
Yes.
When it comes to medical, they bring their asses back.
Okay, so
Every single one of them come back for this. I'm having an operation. I'm coming, and I'm like, well, you still end up back in the UK.
No, but you can't blame them.
No, I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying, for an example,
if they've paid taxes,
I'm
why
not
not
blaming.
assess it?
I'm not blaming them at all.
Okay.
But no, I'm glad you pointed that out. But what I'm saying is, I still have to look at, as much as I included very much complain. Yeah, I say, look at everyone who has successfully moved and tried somewhere else and still living somewhere else. The UK is still a bed of cushion. They still come back, every single one of them.
Imagine if you've been here for 40 years.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to be difficult.
When disasters happen in the Caribbean, they brought their ass back
it's going to
here.
be difficult for you to just get up and go live somewhere else and not think of your motherland. This has become your base.
Oh.
So when I go on holidays, whether 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I miss this place to want to run back because this is home. Because I've been here 24 years. You see, I don't see Nigeria as that. I see Nigeria as a place I want to go visit.
I think I've never wanted to come back.
So I run back to, exactly. So that feeling is there. I'm living. I then start missing the UK. I think that is just natural.
I've never missed the UK in all the travels
because it's home. It's your familiar environment.
I've never lived abroad before, which is the game changer. It's massive.
I was coming to
so
that.
Maybe that's
so
because
that's another
you've
thing
lived
because I have a frame of reference. That's another thing. So for those who've never really lived abroad, the frame of reference is different. That's why I tell people your opinion is valid, but I won't sit here and tell you my opinion over yours on these matters. No way, because my frame of reference is clearly different from yours. I have Nigeria.
It's a bit more dynamic, your experience.
I have Italy. I have Austria.
And you've lived in all these countries.
I stayed in Austria and I stayed in Italy. So I have affiliation with these places. So some English people or British people don't have that. They only know
2 weeks
London,
of vacation.
or when they go to Thailand, they come back, or go India, they come back, and go Marrakesh, they come back.
Living somewhere is next level experience.
But if you also listen to the English people, the white people who are talking about where they're heading up to, they put things in comparison.
Yeah.
It's not just the weather for them. They can deal with the weather.
Yeah.
It's just the bills that they're being lumbered with. It seems like nobody listens
it's
to them.
stifling. It's very stifling. It's stifling.
Imagine year in, year out, your road tax increases. The insurance for your car increases. They're telling you it's due to this, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, the other states, the other countries that have the same power with the UK don't do that. The UK blame the war in Ukraine and Russia for increment in energy bills. France is not doing that. Germany is not doing that. So that frustrates people. But when people are frustrated about things going on in their country, they're unable to fight the government about it. They blame the weaker ones. And the weaker ones, the easy picking ones are the immigrants.
Right, okay.
Simple as that.
Okay.
That's why we say when the tide lifts the ship, you see everything. That's why when there's little problem here, they're quick to attack the foreigner. They're quick to attack the minority because they're venting their frustration. Their frustration is not channeled to the right places. It should be channeled to the right people, the politicians.
Yeah, of course.
Because they say they will do one thing, they come there and they change their mind. They do something else. How do you have billions for war in Ukraine, yet you don't have that same money for your pensioners or for us who are in work? We're building homes. I sat in the London Question Time with Sadiq Khan. I said, let me go and see what this dude has to say.
Yeah.
And a young lady who's a nurse and her husband is a pharmacist or something. They're both in their late 20s. Professionals, both of them earn between them about 70K. Good salary, decent salary. They can't get on the property ladder. Now they're saying, you're building homes in our area in Thamesmead. We can't get on the property ladder and we're resorting to leave London and go live far away because our friend has said to us, with that salary, you can afford so and so and so in close to Birmingham. It should be a loss to you that we live in London because we would have been providing vital services. You know what Sadiq Khan said? I'm so sorry to see you leave. I didn't listen to the rest he said because there was nothing tangible. He could have said, we're trying to work with the developers to ensure that those who desperately need it, who are our people, our children, our citizens, the English, the British, should get first dib
But
on
he's
these
not going to
properties.
say that if that's not what's happening.
They won't do that because
Yeah.
they're beholden to the investors. They're beholden to those people who sponsor them. They're not beholden to you who do the right thing, who get up in the morning and go to your 9 to 5, who pay your taxes, who is encumbered with the high national insurance charges, everything, the council charges.
So
They
let me
don't care
ask
about
you.
you.
All right, so let me
That's
ask
why people
you.
say the place has become a horrible place to live because there are lower taxes in other countries. And you can see your GP there within 10 minutes.
Moments. Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can hear that you're really passionate on this topic anyway, yeah? And I know you're political. We know this. So
Everyone is political.
Yeah, we are, but there's levels, yeah? You are, so you're the best person for me to ask, to be honest, in this moment, that if you personally could make any immediate changes, what would it be?
I think any immediate change for now within where the situation is right now, that will really put something back in people's pockets.
Right. Would be what?
Would be to increase the threshold for tax before you collect taxes. So currently you're 12. Effectively, I'm talking about the tax allowance. So we're about 12,000 plus before you are taxed. So I'll increase that to like 20K.
Oh, that's reasonable.
So that will lift a lot of people out of poverty.
Yeah.
It will give me a break.
Taxing is crazy.
So that's the only thing I could do quickly to lift people out of poverty.
And for those who, just to mention also, for those who do agency work, even when you are collecting for those agencies who put aside holiday for you, they also tax you on your holiday.
I know that because I've been there before.
Imagine.
And there are loopholes for that, and the government is aware of this. But it's just a shame that those people have more leverage power to lobby than you, who don't have that leverage power, because it's just individuals, except you join a union, Unite and the others. But I also don't like unions.
The taxi drivers complaining about them now.
I don't like unions because they too are in cahoots with the state.
Yeah.
It's all about their interests. It's not about the main person. They don't fight for the honorary man. They think they do. They don't. They're in cahoots with the state. That's what I believe. But people need to be aware. They need to become aware of why there are problems. Because if you have issues, if your feet hurt, I don't just think you go on throughout the rest of this month and say my feet hurt and without looking for the solution on why it hurts. So if you go to see a doctor, the foot doctor, he'll be telling you, he'll be asking you questions. Why? Did you knock it over somewhere? Why is he asking you?
History.
Is he expert? But he wants to know so that he knows, hang on, this plays out like that. Then I know what to give you. Absolutely. It's the same. So people need to become aware of why council taxes are increasing and services are appalling. And then they'll be able to channel their anger and their frustration to the right people and the right agencies, and not frustrate and put it on the people, on immigrants, and say, hey, hang on, we're giving you homes. That's how our people are homeless. That's not correct. I have worked with immigrants before in my position as social worker with the local authority. None of them are giving homes. None of them are giving lodge hotel. It's complete lies. We put them in travel lodge.
Oh, and really? Okay.
I'm talking the run-down travel lodge.
Oh, wow.
And there is also a guy in Essex.
Those are children as well.
All of them. I've dealt with these people. The Home Office don't put them anywhere. They dump them on us because the Home Office has got nothing. They don't know what to do. This is my work. Anybody, I can challenge anyone to it. There's also a guy from Essex called David or something. He is paid by the government £3.5 million on a daily to house these people, asylum seekers. That is where our problem is. Why is the government paying somebody? I'm not saying monthly. I meant £3.5 million on a daily. That guy so much earned money, he jumped into the billionaire list last year. That's where the problem is. It's not the immigrant, it's that dude, because they're making money off these people. These people are commodities. That's why they allow them in. So everything is an agenda.
Absolutely, definitely an agenda. So you said one of the things that you would change would be
just the one thing, tax? Because it will lift people out of poverty. It will just be increase the tax allowance.
What else would you say that you're quite passionate about? That
if I wanted to add anything to it?
Yeah, if you said, like, what you would change,
The next one would be to put a moratorium on new homes being built. If you've not lived in this country for 3 years, you won't be able to buy a home. You won't be able to get a house. Go rent privately. That's one thing I'll do. So that you who have lived in this country all your life, or your son or your daughter, will have a chance to get on the property ladder. It should be British homes for British people and for the people who've lived here and paid their taxes. Not for people who just walk in with a bag of money, questionable characters. That's what I would do following the increment of the tax allowance.
What about the other side of the seesaw, which is You mentioned the housing, yeah, house property, but still the housing. A law had kind of come out allegedly some years ago that, you know, if you haven't placed your children or your eldest child, for an example, by 17 on the housing list, they wouldn't be housed, right? So the other end of the spectrum, there's so many young people that are living in dysfunctional homes of parents and they want to get out, but there's nowhere for them to go. They've either got to go private and they don't have the money for that, or they are stuck for the age of 30, 40 at their parents' house.
Good.
Because they cannot be housed.
So addressing this,
Yeah.
saying new built homes will be for British people.
Right.
We address that.
That is, yeah.
Because the prices of homes will fall drastically.
Right.
Except the developers decide not to build anymore because they're no longer making money. So that will automatically bring the prices of homes down, and your 17 or 18-year-old will look to the future like, in 3 years, I'll be able to buy a property.
Do you know how much people are either sharing
I know.
flats right now,
so
or
that's
stuck
housing
in their mother's
poverty.
house?
That's housing poverty.
Oh my
and that
God.
is because of the policies and because of the government policies.
Let me not
because of
forget to
anything.
say also people of more men than women remaining in relationships they don't want to be in because there's nowhere for them to go.
Yes, you're talking domestic violence and all of
No,
that.
not even just this. They just don't want to be there.
Yeah.
But they don't have the funds to say, I'm going to go private.
But if they have homes, if there were
know?
homes that were cheaper, they'll be able to afford them. So people need to understand this and channel their anger to the right places and know why the country is becoming more horrible.
Yeah.
The country is becoming more horrible to live, not because of the immigrants. Because immigrants, they get the job done, they pay money, they pay taxes. So you see me on the street, you say, I am your problem. How am I your problem when I've gone back to school and got 2 degrees? A first class in BA, a master's degree, 2-1, and I've done better for myself, and I pay you taxes into the economy. How am I the problem of the dude who's never worked in his life, who's on benefits? He's been on benefit all his life, him and his family. I ain't your problem. The problem is the state.
Well done. Well said. Well said.
So I'm not your problem.
Absolutely.
I'm only educating you to know what your problem is so you can, with me, fight the problem. So next time when the election comes around, tell them we're voting you out. Put yourself up for position. If you think you'll be able to do it better, put yourself up for elective positions or hold them, better still, hold them accountable.
Well said.
So overall,
said.
Again, I said, it's my opinion, it's your opinion, it's the other person's opinion. We have a parable back home. No matter how no matter how many years the drought lasts for, the rich man who will not go to the river to fetch water will not go. So what it means is there are people crying that this place has become horrible. In that same state, there are people saying this is the best times of our life.
Absolutely.
We're milking it. We're making millions. I made billions last year. There are people in abject poverty, in housing poverty, in energy poverty, but there are people who are just ripping off these people back. So
I think it's also that, as well as the rise and obviously, you know, crime and people being unalived. I think generically people are talking about why it's become a horrible place.
Yeah.
But you spoke very well, and you've obviously had a lot of us that's going to be reflecting on all the things you
touched on some of the rise of petty crimes.
Well,
it can then lead to
even massive,
more aggressive one. And where does petty crime start from? It starts from shoplifting.
Yeah.
Why do people shoplift? Because they're hungry.
True.
They want to feed their belly.
Ooh.
Even if they're shoplifting a roll-on or shoplifting a bottle of whiskey, they're trying to sell it to get food for the belly. I can't tell you how much of what. A lot of those are also addicts. A
lot of those are also addicts. And
there are addicts.
Yeah.
Everybody's feeding a habit. Whether you're feeding your belly or you're feeding, you know what I mean? So,
I'm done. You really shut down this topic. I'm done.
So it has become a horrible place. Morals are down. Yeah. We don't have enough time to talk about that. Morals are down. You know, what are we teaching our kids?
100%.
We're afraid of our kids. We see them being unruly. We saw one recently on the TikTok. Went into Westfield in Stratford, lifted a heavy furniture and dropped it from God knows how many floors.
When was this?
Just a couple of days ago. He missed a gentleman's head. Just like that. The man just walked and he dropped. That guy would have died. Why would a young man,
what was
a teenager...
his purpose? Is he got any...
I don't know yet. He's been arrested.
Okay, right.
So we don't know why this person did that. So let's break down the morals. But unfortunately, common sense, we don't have all day to discuss this. But we promise we'll come back again and talk about why Britain is horrible. See you next time.